Day one of the group stage has just finished, and wow, so many surprising games. G2 and Vitality both surprised with an upset. Korean teams didn't look as good as what would normally be expected of them, and then obviously RNG coming out with the stomp. Everyone kind of assumed that was going to be the case anyways. So let's jump into it. First of all, let's pop up the standings right now. So you have Flash Wolves with their win, G2, and then Edward Gaming and KTrolster. To get into the game specifically, let's get into the first game of the day. So, KTrolster versus Team Liquid. Now, from the outset, when you look at this game and you look at the score and what happened, you think, okay, well, KTrolster obviously won. They probably out macro Team Liquid hardcore and then just kind of won the game through war of attrition, right? But it's not really what even happened. So as far as the draft phase, you get impact on Urgot, and you think of that and you're just like, okay, well, we don't really know how he's going to perform on this pick because it wasn't really meta during the finals of NALCS. So we haven't seen Team Liquid perform in a very long time, so a lot of things can change. And then you look and see that they got Kaisa as well too. Kaisa, very important for Team Liquid just as a team because we all know they revolve around Doublelift. So then you have Mata getting Thresh, of course, his signature champion. And there's also the Xayah pick. Now, previously I talked about Xayah being a priority pick instead of Rakan, and I was really confused because in the past we had seen Rakan being picked over Xayah, and then you were just lucky if you got Xayah on the second rotation, and hopefully they didn't pick Xayah instead to kind of separate the lovers duo. Well, I guess turns out teams have been prioritizing Xayah more than Rakan, especially since there are so many other supports that are strong within the meta. So I guess apparently you have Thresh, especially if you're Mata. You have Tom Kench, Alistair, Braum. So all these different champions that can still provide lane pressure as well too. So, and I think KTrolster obviously played quite well around the Thresh pick this game. TL bot lane was already in a deficit early on at level 1 by Doublelift just getting caught next to the river bot lane bush. So he gets chunked out. He has to use 2 pots. And then later on, Pobelter tries to help them with a TP along with Xmithy gank. But then Pobelter was punished in CS along with Impact, just playing too far forward in the top lane while his mid laner was had recalled from the bot lane TP play. And then Yucal roams up there and then is able to get a kill. So Yucal is snowballed from this. He gets super far ahead. He also gets a solo kill onto Pobelter. So mid lane is just blasted wide open, and then KT take control of the game through that. Overall, I think Team Liquid, they tried the best that they could in terms of playing around their bot lane's deficit at level 1 and the health advantage. And then the TP play is probably what messed Team Liquid up the most. Pobelter probably shouldn't have TP'd, but not only that, Impact didn't need to play so forward when his mid laner was obviously recalled, and you should assume that Yucal is either coming up there or someone's gonna just straight destroy you because you're pushed up so far. So it was just a misplay between mid and top. And maybe that was a team call to do the teleport, not sure, but just seemed like Team Liquid were kind of panicked because of their botched level 1 misplay. So game wasn't really incredibly interesting, but it was interesting to see that Team Liquid had decent vision coverage throughout the entire game until the mid-tier 1 broke open, and then they just had no way to come back into the game. Okay, so with game 2, you have Edward Gaming versus Mad Team. Let me pop the slide over. Okay, so with this composition, I noticed that Leona is being picked more and more, and it seems to be a good pick into the Rakan. Reason being is that if Rakan tries to engage on you without his level 6, you can immediately stop him with a Q. If he ends up trying to knock you up, you just Q him, and it's a direct counter. So quite good in that regard. As far as, you know, the problems with Leona, like I said before, is that she has a way in but no way out. So you're kind of just fully committed, but then again, that's the EDG style anyways. So this game was pretty bloody. Both teams, they over-engaged multiple times and were punished multiple times. EDG, they often were able to get poked out during many different fights that were extended, but EDG just simply had a better team fight comp, and along with that, just better mechanical players in that sense. And iBoy is just a beast when it comes to team fights. So EDG just won out based on pure mechanical skill, and really didn't do well in terms of macro or in terms of setting up vision. Neither team really did. Objective control was really bad. It was just, this game was pretty awful to watch. Like in terms of, you know, just the blind sense of entertaining and people getting kills and whatnot. Yeah, sure. It in that sense, it was entertaining, but it was wild. I'll just say that. Not too much to explain about that game. Flash Wolves versus Bungu Buffalo. Not much to explain about this game either. You know, Bungu, they got Urgot, and then they got the Varus and Tom Kench, which is super nice. You figure that Flash Wolves would have just went with Tom Kench instead of Alistair, but maybe they thought they'd rather just have hard engage and maybe get some advantage bot lane when it comes to like a tower dive or something. Other than that, I don't really know why you would pick that instead, especially because Tom Kench provides so much side lane pressure because of his ult, right? If someone is in a side lane and they're doing a 1v1, well, you know, the Tom Kench can immediately go over there and gank with someone in his stomach. So just seems strange, but didn't really matter too much. Flash Wolves just completely outplayed the bot lane. Mugen played around bot lane super hard, and Meliodas tried to save the lane by lane gank. I believe he did a lane gank at around 8 minutes, 8:20, and he oh wait, no, that was when Mugen ganked bot again, waiting in the Krug bush with Flash Wolves bot lane, and then PvB they didn't even have like a tri bush warded to see the gank coming, so they just kill Big Koro again as he comes back into lane. So Muji was just picking on the bot lane like super hard. But yeah, at 10:30, that was when the lane gank happened from Bungu, but it didn't work out, and Flash Wolf still got a 1-0. So overall, just a straight stomp. Nothing incredibly interesting about this game. Wouldn't even really recommend watching it. It was just ridiculous from Mugen. A Freak of Freaks versus G2. This one was nice. G2 win this, and when you look at the composition, you already know. I mean, you already know. So Hjarnan gets his Heimerdinger, and that's when you can see a Freak of Freaks kind of already messed up. They probably could have dropped the Aurelie ban and instead banned Hjarnan's Heimerdinger. But that's not even the main problem with this within this entire team composition. It was more so that Wonder got ahead very hard, and G2 actually had fantastic macro play in the middle of the game, or well, in the early game. So G2, they were able to get pressure topside. Like, despite the failed gank from Jankos early, this is due to Afrika trying to respond to bot lane plays by over-pressuring bot lane. And so G2 were just able to get an advantage top later on. And then G2 respond with like a super great macro play at 18 minutes with Hjarnan TPing top lane, and then Wonder TPing bot lane to try and hold the bot tower against a siege from a Freak of Freaks. And so Hjarnan's able to get first blood turret on top side, and this just opens up the map completely. And then G2 just play well around the 4-1 split push, and Wonder was in complete control of the split push and was able to get like bot inhib while G2 danced around Baron. And then not only that, but they get to kill the enemy jungler as well too in the 4v5 situation. So G2 just get everything that they wanted. This game was completely phenomenal by G2 in terms of how they wanted to split up the map and relying on the pressure from Hjarnan in terms of zone control. Because if Heimerdinger is allowed to set up controls, zone controls, then he's able to dictate the pace of like the battlefield in which you fight in. So you don't really want to go into an entire battlefield full of turrets. That's probably a bad idea. So G2 did really spot on in just creating pressure on the other side of the map to where Wonder could then get objectives. That was the main goal within this entire team composition, and they executed it perfectly. So as much as I was down on G2 during the play-in stage, I'm pretty sure a lot of other people were as well too. And same thing with their playoff run against Misfits in the quarterfinals. I was down on them as well. So this shows, I guess, that G2 functioned really well with the Heimerdinger pick, but I still want to hold everyone in check when anyone bans Heimerdinger against Hjarnan, because we still haven't seen how this team performs on a more traditional comp, with more traditional picks. So let's wait for that. Let's wait to see if, this was just a fluke and it was just because of the Heimerdinger creating control zones and controlled battlefield scenarios. And let's see if Hjarnan can actually function on a traditional AD carry before we jump into any other conclusions. But still quite a good win regardless, because G2 just had great macro around this entire advantage. So this one, straight stomp. RNG just completely smashed bot lane. Everyone ends up using their globals bot lane, and you see in the team composition and how Cloud9 pick Evelynn towards the later parts of the draft, and then RNG respond with globals. And this is just perfect for RNG, because now the Evelynn can't really have that much effectiveness when it comes to level 6, because when she ganks and it's, a sudden surprise, then it's not going to be a surprise, because you just react with your ult with a Shen ult or a Galio ult, and suddenly the Evelyn isn't as effective as it should be. She still has burst potential, and it depends on how far she gets ahead, and if you could just burst through the shield regardless. But it's still something that's quite well done from the RNG composition, and you already know that Xiaohu plays Galio, so you should have kind of expected this within the reaction. And on top of that, Galio doesn't really have that bad of matchups into any other mages, so even Ryze isn't really going to have, or he's not really going to have too much trouble against a Ryze. So RNG just play towards bot lane, get Uzi ahead, and then Uzi's able to roll over C9 and extend his lead to other lanes during the lane swap. And Uzi couldn't be contested in the side lane due to just the multiple amount of globals on RNG side. But there's nothing very interesting about that game. Cloud9 just gets stomped, and yeah, the game ends quite quick. For this last game, Gen G versus Vitality. You would expect Gen G to win, but it's not the case. You have Jizuke, who gets the counter pick for Echo into Syndra. It's an old school counter pick. You know, you click R, when she clicks R, suddenly it nullifies her ult. So it's a great pick. We already know Jizuke knows how to play this pick. And then Gen G also get Tahm Kench and Urgot during the first phase. And if you look at Team Vitality's phase, they could have gotten Tahm Kench as well too. So once again, it seems like some of these teams are prioritizing Alistar over Tahm Kench, and I'm not really sure why. Yeah, sure, you can lock them up if you get the QW combo or WQ combo from Alistar, even when someone is in Tahm Kench's stomach, and so you can kind of just keep both of them locked in the same place. But that's really only in lane phase, and the side lane pressure that Tahm Kench generates is just really valuable. So it was really strange. And as far as the game goes, the game was strange as well too, because it was very sloppy from both sides. I mean, Jizuke, he thought he was safe early game after level 6, but then he just played far too aggro and dies to a gank from Haru. And during this time, Ambition's not in this game, so it's just Haru in the jungle. And so Vitality mess up, and they still try to fight for Ocean Drake after this gank has happened, which they get, but then Gen G just catches them out and follows up, and they get a 3-for-0. And so by this time, you would think that Gen G are in pretty good control of the game. But then Core JJ was everywhere in the early game, just catching people in side lanes or in the jungle, and he ended up getting 4-0 in the early game, which in hindsight may not be the best person to put all of your gold into, but hey, whatever. He kept it up. He also tanked in a fight, which ended up getting them quite a lot. It was at 16 minutes. Gen G get like a 3-for-2 and mid-tier 1 because Vitality just ended up focusing Tahm Kench. So he's already too tanky, and he got 4 kills already in the early game, so it's probably the worst person to focus, even though he has the most kills, right? You probably still don't want to do that. So Gen G or Vitality, they end up coming back into the game with a good lane swap, admittedly, which they're able to get First Blood Tower and Rift Herald plus a kill on Cuvée, which is really nice, and it kind of keeps them in the game. And then at 1955 is when Vitality turn it around by finding Crown separated. There's the mid lane, and both teams are kind of posturing. Vitality is over on their side, and Gen G are over down back here. Crown is up here, and so Vitality end up swooping in with Jizuke and the Nocturnal as well, kill Crown up top here, and then they initiate back onto Genji, and they just end up getting a 4-for-1 in total, and this swings the gold in Vitality's favor, or at least back into their coffer so that they can actually compete in this game. And during this whole time, this entire game, Jizuke was just allowed to split push super hard during the late game, and this created a pressure within the side lane to where Genji just really didn't have an answer to. Whenever they would try and go and answer to it, he would be able to escape, and he would also get like 1 kill as well. So no one could really match him in this side lane. So that became a ticking time bomb for Genji, which they tried to pressure for the Elder Drake at the end, but then Jizuke just TPs into their base and ends up winning the game with Attila also TPing as well too, because he has a spellbook. So it seems like there is becoming a trend of all these teams having spellbook and it creating an advantage that wasn't normally available in other metas. And so you're getting these 80 carries or these bot laners, right, with Hjarnen's Heimerdinger taking TP and taking spellbook, and they're able to make macro plays and trades on the other side of the map, especially if they lose their lane. So it's a really great utility. I think we might see more of it as well too, just in case as a safety net. So this first day is quite exciting. It's insane for Europe to go 2-0. NA went 0-2, but it's to be expected anyways. And G2 are looking actually quite good. Vitality, not so much in the early game. And I think that Genji can honestly come back from this. It just seemed like they were a little bit sloppy and fell into the kind of chaos that Vitality wanted to play, because that's their style. They're super early game, super aggressive. So as long as you don't fall into that style and you just play the Korean style that you're used to, which is just control and vision control as well too, then you should be able to just win the game anyways. They were winning the game early hard in the beginning until Crown got caught out and got separated. So I don't want to say this is a fluke, but it does seem like the EU teams are coming out with a little bit more gusto than everyone would have assumed. I hope it keeps up. They're definitely going to give, all other teams a run for their money, it looks like. And with that forced ban of Heimerdinger, which is definitely going to be now, then we'll see how G2 performs. We'll see if Vitality can clean up their early game act. And let's see if these Korean teams can kind of go back to the drawing board, go back to their basics of what they're actually good at, and not fall into the pressures of these early game teams. So I'm looking for day 2 to be pretty exciting, and I'll be covering that review as well too. Peace.